All right, my friend. How are you doing this evening? Where are you at today?
I'm at Mérida, Yucatán, Mexico.
Mérida. Now, Mérida, is that anywhere near where all those tourists got injured?
Well, the tourists, yeah, we have an accident yesterday with some tourists. They're going to I think at Cenote,
Yeah.
right outside the city. Now they're, we have like 11 people who are dead.
Yeah, that's really awful. It's tragic. And you're there for the holidays, right?
Yeah, we're going to be here by the holidays.
Fantastic.
You're going to be where?
I'm going to be in Sitka. I'm going to be in Sitka for the foreseeable future until at least mid-January, which segues nicely into the next time I have scheduled to travel is either one, a criminal trial I'm working on in California, or two, it will be perhaps traveling down to Mexico. We shall see.
Perfect.
All right, so let's chat just really quickly. First of all, two things have happened in the last couple of days that are kind of amazing. One is we have absolutely finalized our surety bond. Our surety bond is the thing that allows us to be insured against any problems that we have with the company so that students can get their money back if there's a problem with the company or a problem with the solvency of the company, to make sure that we have enough money to cover our students. To do that, you have to show financial responsibility. You have to have all these boxes ticked in terms of people that are teaching for you. If you're an institution, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it, and that's pretty important. So we are now licensed and bonded, and not everybody can do that. So that's kind of a big deal. So I wanted to mention that. Just in terms of, I wanted to mention this in specific. In the United States, that's required if you're an accredited institution. What about Mexico? Tell me what goes on in Mexico with this regard if you're teaching at the postgraduate level.
Well, no, here in Mexico, they don't ask you for that, but that's big universities obviously have it.
So big universities have it if you have an accreditation, but if you are a smaller institute or if you are a non-accredited institute, you're not going to have that kind of protection.
Well, not all. Yeah, not all.
Not all, right, exactly. But we do, and that's because in the United States, it's essentially required if you're doing anything at this sort of professional level with actual students. So there's actual accountability for your institution. So we've taken care of that. The next thing is what?
We're very happy to have that because that's a thing that we are going to give the information so we can become transparent about how the institution is, creating their accreditations.
This is a very important thing you just said. That is not just accreditation, but also transparency. You want to make sure that anytime you're choosing where you're going to go to school, you want to make sure that the place you're going is transparent in terms of the classes they're going to teach, who's going to teach them, what the resumes of those people are they actually experienced and published in the areas that they're teaching, and is there any sort of protection and guarantees to the student who are paying, money. They're paying actual real money for these things. And do they have any protections or guarantees against fraud or insolvency? So that's a big deal. Anyway, I wanted to mention also something else happened yesterday, I found out, and that is that a case I've been working on since 2005. I testified at a retrial involving Kristen Lobato, Nevada versus Kristen Lobato. That case, I testified as an expert during the retrial. She got retried because of misconduct by the prosecution the first time around. And the second time around, she was convicted not of the primary murder charge, but of a lesser murder charge. And we've been working on the appeal for that for years. And finally, just on the 19th, the Supreme Court of Nevada overturned the case. So that case has been overturned. And the reason I mention it is because it's one of the more violent sexual homicides that I've worked in Las Vegas. But also it involves an alleged female offender, which I don't think she's guilty of this crime at all, but that's neither here nor there. What it involves is constant misconduct by the state and an idea that basically your cases never go away. It takes a while for these cases to wind their way through court. Can you talk a little bit about that in your experience?
about how the cases, takes a while to understand what's going on.
That's right. You can't just look at it and go, aha, now I know what's happening and now I can effect a reconstruction and now it's going to go and then we're going to lock somebody up and it's all over. That's not how it works, right?
The first mistake that everybody commits, if you're a rookie in this field, is like trying to have the whole theory in the first part of the investigation.
That's right.
Investigation is also the tests it's going to be performed years later, and the
That's
information that will uncover when all the people will speak up, or even the trial start. So you don't know what's going on if you don't have all the information.
And that's a really great point. You get to the crime scene, you collect and document the evidence and document the scene, but you don't know anything yet. You don't know what's important. You don't know what's not important. Nobody has contextualized the information for you. You haven't done the victimology. You haven't done the laboratory tests. And sometimes those things don't get done for years because detectives and investigators decide what occurred, or prosecutors decide what occurred, and they suppress evidence, or they just decide innocently not to test things because they think they know what happened. And then a real professional gets involved, or a series of professionals get involved, and at trial, these questions start getting answered. And so it takes it not just takes days and months, but it takes years for the truth to come out in a real case. It is not something that you know at the crime scene. It is not something that you can figure out until much later, after all the forensic evidence has been weighed and measured and examined, and all the witnesses have been heard. And that doesn't happen right away. It takes a long time. So it's really a problem that we think this stuff happens quickly. So on that note, this is a perfect segue into our announcement that we are having our professional diplomat on forensic victimology. And this case we just did is all about victimology. It's all about contextualizing victim statements and asserting who has motive and who doesn't. We're going to start in Atlanta, obviously. It's going to be in the United States, Mexico, Guatemala, and in Colombia. So first Atlanta, then Mexico City, then Guatemala City, and then Bogota. That'll be starting in February, and then going on into March for the first 4 classes.
Yeah, let me tell this in Spanish so people can understand.
Please do.
Vamos a estar, un poco lo que hemos estado platicando es que vamos a tener un diplomado en victimología forense. Esta es la primera certificación que hay en el mundo a nivel internacional en la disciplina de victimología forense. La victimología forense fue creada por el doctor Brent Turvey hace algunos años y ahora se utiliza casi que de manera estándar en la investigación criminal de violencia sexual, feminicidios, secuestros, personas desaparecidas y bueno, todo aquel donde haya violencia y se estén indagando las relaciones entre el agresor, la víctima y bueno, la falta de seguridad, se necesita hacer victimología forense. Esta certificación se va a llevar a cabo en Atlanta, en Estados Unidos, totalmente en inglés y con traducción al español, con traducción consecutiva. Será en la Ciudad de México, en Guatemala y en Colombia, empezando en el 2018. Este es un diplomado de acreditación. Será un fin de semana cada 2 meses, empezando el 16 y 17 de febrero en la Ciudad de México. La siguiente semana estaremos en Guatemala, ese fin de semana, y el siguiente mes, a finales de marzo, estaremos en Colombia. Para que estén ustedes al pendiente de las redes sociales, vamos a darles toda la información. Son cupo limitado, queremos generar esta primera certificación con personal profesional y pues nos da mucho gusto poderlo anunciar y decirles que ese va a ser nuestro trabajo en gran parte en Latinoamérica. So can you talk about a little bit about what's the institution who are working in this effort to bring this diploma to Latin America?
I can. First, let me just say, it starts in each country. And the diploma program itself has 10 classes. Half of them are going to be online. Half of them will be on site in each of these countries. So if you are living in those countries and you want to take the program, there will be one starting in Mexico City, one starting in Guatemala City, and then one starting in Bogota. And the initial class for each program is starting in February and March. Now, here I'll pull up the screen here. I've got it for you. we have strategic alliances right here. Our partnerships and strategic alliances are listed on our website so that people can know who it is we're actually working for, or working with rather, and who is supporting our efforts in Latin America and the United States. In the United States, we are going to be supported by the Georgia, where our classes are accredited by the Georgia Peace Officer Standard and Training Council. And that's a fairly huge deal, because those are the people who decide whether or not a law enforcement officer gets certified, and how they keep their accreditation throughout or they keep their peace officer certification throughout the years of their profession. And the second thing is, we will also be offering, from all the professional diploma programs, we'll be giving a professional certification from the IAFC and the Academy of Behavioral Profiling. Also in Mexico, we're working with your institution, the university that you run at Ciencia Aplicada, as well as Red Criminology. And they will be supporting our efforts there. They'll be sponsoring our efforts in Mexico. Down in Guatemala, I believe we're working with Anforpor. Is that correct? Is that the correct?
Yeah, it is Anforpor.
Anforpor, and a couple other of government agencies and institutions that we'll be announcing in a few days. But those contracts are not quite finalized, and as soon as they are, we will be announcing those. But we will be, rest assured, we will be working with actual government agencies and entities, and those agencies and entities will dictate the precise locations of those programs in Guatemala City. And the same is true in Bogota. Who's the organization we're working with in Bogota? We're working with Magda Torres of the Policía Nacional.
Yeah. Well, we're working a couple of universities who wants to do this with us. That's and right. Obviously with this private professionals organization that is leading by Magda Torres.
That's correct. So we're not...
And Dr. Liliana, she's a psychologist.
That's
and
right.
She has an organization also in Bogota, and we're working with them too.
That's correct. Now, this is important because we're not just showing up down there and opening up shop and not working with local people. That would be foolish. The things that we're doing are based on relationships that we've had for years. So we're looking forward to doing that, and we're looking forward to having to seeing our friends and colleagues down there over the next few months. So if you're interested, the cost, we can send you the links and the information. But the bottom line is, we'll be teaching down there for the foreseeable future, for the next year at least, in this professional program in forensic victimology that is designed specifically to benefit those professionals who are in the investigative professions, in the behavioral sciences, for a forensic psychologist, for example, as well as criminal investigators and anyone else associated with the justice system who's engaged in forensic examination, who needs to contextualize, to use protocols to examine victim information and data, and to contextualize their forensic findings. Can you talk a little bit about that in Spanish, if you don't mind?
Sí, lo que hemos estado hablando un poco son las organizaciones con las que vamos a estar trabajando. En Estados Unidos está ya con el Consejo de Acreditación del Estado de Georgia. En México estamos trabajando con la Universidad C1, con la Universidad Ciencia Aplicada, que es con la que tenemos la maestría en Psicología Criminal y Forense, y obviamente con la Red Internacional de Criminología, con la cual todavía también trabajamos en Guatemala. Amprofor es otra de las organizaciones, y estamos en pláticas con INED, que es la encargada de la certificación en el sistema acusatorio para la seguridad pública en Guatemala, con la Oficina para la Prevención y la Atención de Tortura en Guatemala, y con la Escuela de Inteligencia para el tema de los espacios y los arreglos, lo cual lo anunciaremos en los siguientes días. En Colombia estamos trabajando con la organización dirigida por la doctora Liliana Ortiz, que es una organización privada que trabaja el tema de psicología forense, psicología jurídica, y una organización liderada por la maestra Magda Torres, que también trabaja en el tema de ciencias forenses y trabaja directamente con la Policía Nacional de Colombia. Estamos muy contentos de estar trabajando con ellos, y en particular lo que queremos es que aquellos que participan sean profesionales y aprendan estos conceptos fundamentales que se relacionan con la investigación criminal, con herramientas que tienen que ver con el sistema acusatorio, que se pueden utilizar desde abogados, psicólogos, psicólogas, trabajadoras sociales, cualquier persona que se dedique a la investigación criminal, que trabaje en la fiscalía, que trabaje en la defensa, lo puede utilizar.
Now, here's the most important part about this. If you are a forensic professional, or if you're even an investigative professional, you have to follow protocols in your investigation. You have to understand what the protocols for competent work are in your field, and you have to follow them. And even if you can get away without doing them the first few times around, it's gonna catch up with you. You're going to wind up being held to account at some point. Like this case we were just talking about, it's all about protocols for medical examination and decedent profile information and medical legal death investigation and sexual assault examination protocols. These were just ignored, and the evidence was ignored and not even tested in this case. And for years, we had to put testimony on the record about their failings, and it's been a very lengthy and expensive process. And finally, once this case got to the Supreme Court, the truth could no longer be denied by the people responsible. And now it's overturned and it has to be tried again. And it's going to be deeply embarrassing for those people who work for the state and either helped suppress evidence or didn't do their job correctly. And it should be, because that's the only way things get better. Can you talk a little bit about that in your experience or your value of that?
Protocols, we talk a lot about protocols, and people sometimes think that protocols are already here and people are using it. And no, we're talking about why it's important, because nobody's using it, or very few people are using it. And if you have it, but you don't have the training to use it,
that's right.
That's another problem.
That's
or
right.
you don't have the accreditation to use it, that's another problem.
That's right.
The main problem is obviously the using of protocols, but also has a lot of problems around that too, like accreditation, like training, like using in a proper way,
that's right.
like using the proper, even the language that you use when you're using the product is important. So that's why we're talking a lot about that.
We can identify, you and I, when we're talking to somebody, we're sitting talking to somebody, you and I can identify someone who has not read proper protocols and is not a proper forensic scientist or a forensic examiner within just a few minutes. It's very easy, because they're so used to being able to bullshit their way around people who are uneducated or students, and the students don't know any better, so they seem like they know what they're talking about. But to a legitimate forensic professional, they're full of shit real fast, and all you have to do is ask them a couple basic questions, and they can't answer them. They don't know what words, they don't use the right language, and they don't know what the words they're using mean. That's the biggest problem.
Exactly.
And they couldn't tell you what protocols they're using, even if they were pressed. They couldn't tell you what their certifications are in, because they don't have any, or they couldn't, if they have a certification from a phony organization, they couldn't tell you what they had to do to get those certifications. And so you wind up with this person who's never actually testified, isn't working cases, doesn't write reports, and therefore doesn't have the same respect for evidence and testimony given under oath that someone who's a forensic operative has. Wouldn't you say that's accurate?
Yeah, and also this thing that using the or question the usage of protocols. That's another.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
It's the saying I don't want to use protocols because my experience. So you're not an. That's
right. If you're relying solely on your experience, if you talk about you worked for this agency or you've been doing this many years, you're not a forensic professional. A forensic professional will say, yes, I have been doing it this many years, but here are the protocols I use. Here's the certifications that I have. Here are the cases that I've testified in. They'll be able to tell you about the work they've actually done, and they'll be able to show you the reports that they've done, the forensic reports that have been admitted into evidence in court. So they're talking more about outcomes and protocols and casework, and also the research that they rely upon. They'll be able to cite the research and the publications they rely upon to do their work. And if you're talking to someone who's not a forensic professional, or someone who doesn't testify in court regularly, who's kind of bluffing their way through, they're going to talk to you about, I used to work for so-and-so agency, or I've been doing this X number of years, or, I don't need to write reports. I don't need to, I've worked on the mean streets. I know what I'm doing. I got experience. Well, you demonstrate your experience. The quality of your experience is demonstrated by your casework. The quality of your experience is demonstrated by your ability to cite the literature that's appropriate for your professional endeavors, and to explain how you keep and maintain your professional certifications. It's actually a pretty big deal, and that's been glossed over a lot in the last 20 years with people trying to, again, bluff their way through it. So this program is not designed for students who are just sort of quasi-interested. This program is designed for serious professionals who want to learn what protocols are appropriate for their work and other work, and how to apply them in actual casework. That's the big difference.
Yeah, and also I think the one important dimension of this training is that we are dealing with people who are from groups who are vulnerable, like children, people related to native groups, people who are somehow the case is involved with their gender. So that's very important, because there's a lot of protocols who are related to the victimology protocols, and we're trying to show you the whole field so you can have all the tools that you need when you're dealing with a specific case.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm extremely sensitive to that as a white male coming into these kinds of examinations. I have to set my culture aside, I have to set my gender aside, and I have to actually examine things based on a scientific set of established protocols, not based on how I feel as a male in a culture, in a society, not based on my own personal feelings. You have to be trained and educated to set your own personality and beliefs aside. And if you're talking about your personality or your beliefs and you're acting like that's a good thing, and your emotions, you're very emotional, and you're acting like that's a good thing, that's a problem for a forensic professional. If you're an advocate, you're all about feelings and emotions, and that's good, but this will actually give you tools to help you deconstruct whether or not the professionals who are claiming to do casework are actually doing it. You'll be much more educated and informed. That to me is a big problem. When especially like I hear people say things like, "Well, I have nightmares and I these things upset me," and well, they should. But if you're a legitimate forensic professional, you're like a surgeon. You have a set of established protocols, a set of established tools, and you're going to work your cases in a way that will keep your emotions from getting in the way, and that will keep you from letting your personal feelings bias the results or influence your findings or what you examine in any way that normally derails a case. That's the problem we see over and over again, right? You see these people coming in without protocols, without training, without certification, and they do things based on how they feel and how other people have taught them and their culture, not based on science, not based on objective analysis. Tell me about that in your experience, just real quick.
Well, I think one of the in our trainings, we are not just saying people why it's important not to involve your emotions, but also how to recognize those emotions. And in order to do that, we need to explore all the prejudice, all the ideology, all the personal things that are, with each one of us. Because if you don't do that, you mean that I'm going to suppress that, but to suppress it is one of the most difficult tasks that any human being has in their life. To try to see the reality as it is very, very hard. So that's another thing we work in this training with forensic victimology, to understand violence, to see violence and not be affected in a way that affects you personally, but also to help the victims and all the people related to that. That's another great thing about this training.
Well, one of the things I want to point out is that this is what comes from these kinds of this kind of professional training, is that you're actually learning how to work with other people and to use other people to help filter your own bias and prejudices, to surround yourself with people that are keeping you accountable, that are going to make you into your best analytical self, instead of people that nurture your prejudices, nurture your biases, and tell you things like, "Oh, you don't need to read, you don't need to learn, you don't need to understand protocols because it's all in here in the gut." That's not how it works at all. And if you're surrounding yourself with the wrong kind of people, you're not going to get to know yourself. You're not going to get to know your own prejudices. And when you can't recognize your own weaknesses and your own prejudices and your own biases, they will infect your work and you will not know it. And it will make your work less reliable. And you'll get to be stunningly, spectacularly wrong a lot. So surrounding yourself with the right other professionals who are going to hold you accountable and are on the same scientific path as you, that's a big deal. That's not a small thing. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. And I think we'll close it there, right? I mean, let's just say this. It starts in February. If you're interested, give us send us an inbox or contact us via Facebook. And we will be, like I said, February is when it begins. And hopefully we'll get to address people before then again.
Comenzamos en febrero, vamos a poner las ligas, tú lo puedes pagar en línea, lo puedes pagar por adelantado y cuesta $800 y lo pagas con pagos mensuales. Hay un costo extra al final del año por pagar diferido, son $85 cada mes durante un año y la capacitación, recuerda, son 120 horas de capacitación, se da tu certificado y aquellos que quieran acreditarse, se realiza un examen al final, se acreditan y son parte de la primera generación de acreditados en victimología forense.
And we want to thank...
I think we're set up to the next year, and we're very happy to start this program.
Not just that, but we're really happy to be working with such good partners. We want to thank Ciuno for working with us on this, and for ProCrim. We want to thank Red Criminology for all their support.
La Nacional de Criminología, sí.
As well as the Georgia Peace Officer Standard and Training Commission, and all the organizations and institutions, and the government organizations and institutions that will be hosting these courses in the year to come. So thank you very much for that, and we hope to see you all there, okay? And Aurelio, I want you to have a really, really good Christmas and a really good New Year. Where are you going after this? I heard you're not staying in Merida, right? You're leaving somewhere else?
No, I'm going to Chetumal.
When are you leaving for Chetumal?
I'm going to be with Chazelle, my wife, and with all their families, and Balam. Balam's going to be there because apparently he likes Christmas. I don't like Christmas, but now he likes Christmas.
Yeah, well, I'm going to explain something for you. Christmas is not for you. Christmas is for children.
Now I know that.
It's really great because you get to all the terrible, tragic things that happened to you at Christmas, all the trauma that you suffered from all the gifts that you didn't get that you wanted.
Have that.
You're going to get to re-see that all through his eyes and not want to fail him. And you will, but you will. You'll fail spectacularly. Failure's the best teacher. That's what I've learned from The Last Jedi. Failure's the best teacher.
She loves Santa Claus, and I don't know where that came from, so I don't know.
I have an idea. I have a thought. Let me just suggest to you, there is one person you might know. And again, I do want to wish you a Happy New Year. I do want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and to you and your family, especially to your sister, who's one of my favorite people in the whole world. I wish I got to see her again before the end of the year, but we didn't. We ran out of time. Too many other things going on, I guess.
We will see her next year, and also I hope you enjoy your. What do you celebrate? You celebrate Christmas, or you celebrate like a special thing that?
Like Festivus? I don't. No, we
celebrate like what?
We celebrate. We celebrate in our house. We are not a religious home, but we do celebrate Christmas because it's a great time for family to get together and eat lots of food. And I think you know that about our family is that we like to get together and eat a lot of food.
I love that for your family. That's one of my favorite things.
I know it is, brother. Well, again, it was really good talking to you, and I'm really excited about what the new year holds. Everything's lining up by this time next year. It'll be even better. So I really appreciate all the work you're doing and all the work that all of our partners are doing. And I will see you in the new year. All right, brother?
Yeah, man. See ya.
Take care.